New Ronin's back, slicing through the noise with a culture attack. Pop culture films in the world we see. Deleted scenes where the truth runs free. Take care, stay strong, we're breaking the mold. Be safe, stay healthy, let the story unfold. From watch parties, reviews to the news we spin. Deleted scenes, yeah, this is how we win. Take care, stay strong, we're breaking the mold. Be safe, stay healthy, let the story unfold. From watch parties, reviews to the news we spin. Deleted scenes, yeah, this is how we win. Yeah. Steven out on your YouTube, bro, let's roll.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, human being American and YouTube Ronin. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Unscripted. I want to say hello to everyone currently joining us on X and Rumble. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. I want to say hello to a few people who've joined us here tonight in the chat. The first man here, my guest tonight on Reserved Seats, Big Al Presents, creator of Films with Friends and a 10-word review, Faithful Blue Wrench channel member, the bird woman of YouTube. Watch out for her channel, Fluff Chick Productions. It's kind of Clary. Channel member, Andrea Black. Friend of the channel, D. Penzak. Now, the last couple of weeks have been sort of me looking back on the past. Looking back at my quote-unquote career here on YouTube. And it's all led me to think that, that phrase is true, evolve or die. I have found a second family here on YouTube. But if I want to continue as I have been, I have to evolve. And the channel has to evolve. I have a responsibility now to be honest, to be right in what I say. Now, doing so necessarily leads to a certain introspection. Looking back on past mistakes. And, I'm human. And yeah, I have things that I want to go back and hit the rewind button on, as everybody does. But that's not how the world works. We take our mistakes and we learn from them. That's what you're supposed to do. I have always said on this channel that I will be honest with you. That's because I don't know how to be any other way. I don't know how to be anyone other than myself. And maybe that'll turn some people off to this channel. And if it does, then au revoir, Auf Wiedersehen, ciao, das Vidania, see you later. So, one thing that has to be understood, that when you start a YouTube channel, you're not going to please everybody all the time. Best thing to do is to just go on, be yourself, be honest. That's all I know how to do. I'm a YouTuber by the skin of my teeth. As the song says, I'm the worst at what I do best. For that gift, I feel blessed. That's my channel in a nutshell. And no, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I am going to do my best, especially in the upcoming year, to make this the best channel that I possibly can. Is everybody always going to agree? No. This isn't an echo chamber. Believe me, people let me know it. The comment section is open. And when I was a kid, I grew to be a huge fan of the cinema, as they say. Every time I would open up a newspaper, and I was reading the newspaper when I was very young. I was somebody who was reading the newspaper when I was 2. Now that's not me bragging. It's just what I did. I don't remember not being able to read. This is one of those things I always remember. But I used to always open up the newspaper and I would go to the movie section to see what was playing and where. And by the extension of that, I came to become a fan of shows like sneak previews, At the Movies, Entertainment Tonight, Showbiz Today, and of course, Siskel and Ebert. And they would have their show on Saturday mornings. There are 3 things I used to grow up watching on Saturday mornings when I was a kid. That, of course, was the old Looney Tunes cartoons. This thing that used to be on USA Network called Kung Fu Theater. and like I said, Siskel and Ebert. And Ebert in particular, kind of became like my Kingsfield. Um, and hello to our man from the future. Sashi says, can't stay long, have to get ready for work. I understand. And hello to Chiar Creations. Movie, comics, and TV guide section, the papers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But when Roger Ebert started, he released a book that was all of his newspaper reviews, and I bought that book and I started reading it, and I became it's coffee table book, and you could sit down, read his review, pick a movie, it was bound to be in there, read the review, and I came to use his rating system as kind of my own, you know. Everything 3 stars and above was a recommend, and everything below was not. And I have kind of used that or some variation of it to this day. Now, whenever when I started to kind of quote unquote review movies, obviously this was nothing that I ever made public. I would always, make a list of the movies that I had seen, assign some star rating to them. I'd begun to do that in my teenage years. Now, one of the things that, of course, has happened, the advent of technology, is you're starting to see these websites pop up. And I'm not just talking like IMDb or, Rotten Tomatoes or anything like that. I'm not talking about those. What I am talking about, well, first and foremost, when I really started to get into the whole YouTube thing, and I didn't have a channel yet. I hadn't released anything. There were no videos. I was just a guy who was like showing up on other people's channels. But one thing I was a regular on was an app called Stardust. And on Stardust, you could go and record these 45, 60 seconds, sometimes longer if you're paying more, where you could do more longer form videos. And I started out reviewing films on Stardust, kind of giving my opinions on them. And a couple of my reviews ended up on Double Toasted, back when they were doing their segment when they had a whole Stardust segment. And you can look back and those shows are still up there. So you can see me in a couple of those. When I reviewed Halloween 2018, and uh, there was one other movie that they used. I don't remember which one it was. But the point is, that's why I kind of first got into amateur film criticism. I was just a guy giving my opinion on an app. Now, Stardust took a very serious uh, turn left and kept going. Let's just say that. This was at the beginning of the whole woke nonsense. And unfortunately, Stardust went very much into that direction. So I left that app. And I came here and, realizing, hey, you know what? A lot of the channels that I was watching at the beginning were these like reaction channels, were um, the film criticism uh, channels, like Chris Stuckman, like Jeremy Johns. They were the guys that I first started watching when I came here to YouTube. And then, of course, eventually I found a number of others along the way. Since Corner, Kyle Corwith, Corey, um, uh, guys like Adam Does Movies and Jacob Hubbard, and all of these channels that were doing film criticism. So I started watching them and have tried my best to kind of pattern myself after them while still kind of bringing my own thing to it. Um, I really kind of consider the reviews I do a little bit more akin to what Brad Jones does. Um, Stone Gremlin Productions. I used to watch him quite a bit at the beginning too. So I had found this kind of whole new group of critics, and they were regular guys just like me. Some of them have gone on, obviously, to make their own films. And I support them in that because, as I always say, it is the independent creators that we have to support, especially now. Hello to Sergeant Giratina. Good to see you, sir. And hello to my co-host on Live from Sparkwood in 21, Aged Boomer. Stay to the end of this broadcast, and you will be automatically redirected over to Boomer's channel for tonight's episode of Geeky Geezers. That'll be at the top of the next hour. So, I had found this whole new group of film critics and kind of fallen in, and now I do shows with some of them. And some of them have been on my channel just to come on and shoot the breeze and relax. Like Big Al Presents, reviews films. He's going to be my guest on Reserved Seats later tonight. But things changed when it came to, in particular, Hollywood production. Now, I'm sure a number of you have seen the story that October was the worst year in 27 years for um, for the box office. And they tried to do the end run and kind of use COVID as a partial excuse. That cannot be done. COVID is done, people. It wasn't the great plague that you made it out to be. We're still here, but guess what? You trained us not to come back. You trained us to wait for streaming, and then you decided you didn't like half of us anymore. And you tried your best to appeal to a group of people who have no money and don't go to the movies. They're on TikTok protesting something. And hello to FKHC 2005, sometimes known as Tim. And Kopla, and welcome to Gorilla's Random Thoughts. I don't, though. That's the thing. The problem with that, Tim, was that they trained people not to go to theaters. And they depended too much on streaming. And that's part of what's hurting their box office right now. Audiences did come back for Maverick. I came back for Tenet. That was the first movie back. At least where I lived, I went to go see. Well, I wanted to see it anyway. But yeah, the audiences definitely came back more for Maverick than Tenet, obviously. But they weren't able to keep them. Yeah, I totally agree, Gorillas. Yeah. And that's part of what I want to talk about tonight and kind of equate it to my own experience as a, dare I say it, amateur critic. And that's what I consider myself. Um, uh, I am not someone who has grown to the point to where people are offering them screeners. Maybe I don't review enough movies over enough of a period of time. Whatever. Anyway, that's not kind of what this show is about tonight. You know. Um, would I like to get a screener? Would I like to get screeners? Sure. Um, but that's not going to change anything. I'm still going to be honest on my opinion of the film. Now, I have done a number of shows on my own personal rating system, but I've kind of had to change it and kind of massage it over the last few years because it's kind of hard for me to tell people to wait for streaming on a movie if it's already on streaming, or or it's going to be on streaming in a couple of weeks anyway. Which is the other problem is they don't. They're killing themselves with this 30 to 45-day turnover. So the thing is this. I call this episode Searching for Roger Ebert for a reason. And while I did not always agree with him, he was the one that I always thought, out of all of those critics from back in the day, that he was the one who kind of got the joke. He was the one who was, out of all of them, the closest to us. The regular guy, even though he had a fucking Pulitzer, to go and, sit down and watch a movie and break it down, and at least at the time, that's what I thought, through my, you know child, and then eventually, teenage to early adult brain. That's the way I looked at Roger Ebert. And ever since he passed, there has never really been anyone there who could replace him. It's like, you know, it's like Boomer and Troy every week with these in memoriams. These legendary actors and actresses, musicians that we grew up with, who are now, they are aging out, they are passing away, and there is no one there to replace him. So my thought process has become like this. When we are the ones who have to become the competition, who have to fill the void that Hollywood has decided that they are no longer going to fill, maybe it is also up to us to replace the Roger Eberts, to replace the Gene Siskel's. And I think up to a point, I think that's what I've been trying to do, is using them as a jumping off point and then going my own way. Now, I am someone who, in recent months, I've kind of had the idea in my head that I want to get into filmmaking, not necessarily directing, because there are people out there who could do a far better job than I do. Could I write something? Maybe. But I want to get in on the producing end of things. And I've helped to back certain independent productions. And in the coming years, I want to do more of that. If, you know, uh, my bank account allows me. But it's something that I want to do more of. Now, going back to the main focus of the show this evening, which is the film criticism angle of it. I've kind of come to a revelation, and this is something that I was discussing off screen with someone after a stream, and I was like, I don't think it's so much about star ratings or 1 out of 10 or whatever. I think at the end of the day, it's about what did a movie come to mean to you on an emotional level? And I find myself doing that, especially a lot more this year. Movies that kind of affected me on an emotional level, and not just sitting there and going, oh, it's a movie, it happened 2.5 stars. You know, um, I'm talking about the movies that you're still thinking about months after you've seen them, you know. And there were a few like that this year. And I think that when I do my best and worst list at the end of the year, I don't think star ratings are going to matter. I think it's going to be how did a movie make me feel? And I think in the end, that's the important thing. And maybe that's how it's going to be going forward. You know, it's like I have had to change the way I look at film. And that is something that's changed. And I have always been of the mind that what makes a good movie for me is what has always made a good movie for me. Because I kind of got challenged on this one time where there was a movie that I liked, and somebody who was on the panel with me didn't like the film and thought it was mediocre at best. But the thing was, in his argument was there's been so much crap that you're looking to overlook a mediocre movie just because it's better than whatever else is out there. And I have always been of the mind that no, a mediocre movie is still just a mediocre movie. What makes a movie good or bad, in my opinion, has never changed, even after everything. Then I kind of thought about it and I went, you know what? If they think of us in the way that they do, then damn it, you better start shitting me Tiffany cufflinks. You know, you gotta, I am now going to hold you to a higher standard. Now I get it. It is all subjective. Like I know of late I've been saying that if a movie is as good as Top Gun Maverick, I will tell people go and see that movie in the theaters. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth your time. It'll be worth your money. I get it. Not everybody likes Top Gun Maverick. Um, some people say it's too close in plot structure to the original film. And yeah, it kind of is, but I thought it was done well enough and they changed enough of it that to me, I still enjoyed going to see the movie multiple times. There are some people who have this decided for whatever reason that they don't like Tom Cruise and they're just going to shit on anything that he does. Now, the reason for that, I don't know. If it's the whole Scientology angle, I don't know. People say, hey, he jumped on a couch. I don't like him. What the fuck is that? I don't know. Get shut of that. I don't care. Does the man make good movies? Yes. Does he, well, for the most part, there's a dud or two in there, but I'll let that go. I'll allow everybody one or two bad movies. They are not going to all be winners. All right. But I tell you what, Tom Cruise isn't on my Twitter timeline calling people Nazis. He goes on before Top Gun Maverick and says, you know what? We made this movie for you, the fans. And they made it because they loved it, and they made it with respect. And I could tell. And you can tell the difference. So I can say, hey, if a movie is as good as Top Gun Maverick, go see it in theaters. But then you always have people, oh, Top Gun Maverick sucked. Okay, then no, let's do that. But go see this. It's all subjective. It's all opinion. And you can agree or disagree, and that's okay. But you know what? I am going to go on here and I'm going to be honest in my opinions. I'm not going to write any books about film criticism. At least I'm not planning to at the moment. I'm not going to win a Pulitzer Prize. But what I can do is keep up the tradition. And I am going to do my best to steer you in the direction of good entertainment. And it's always going to be my opinion. It's always going to be honest. And you can take it or leave it, and that's fine. But I owe it to you now, and I think you deserve it. So who's the new Roger Ebert? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's Sin. Maybe it's Kyle. Maybe it's Adam Does Movies. Maybe it's Jacob Hubbard. Who's to say? But I'm not going anywhere. And while I am not speaking for the YouTubers that I have mentioned tonight, I don't think they're going anywhere either. Bummer, no deleted versus Pauline Kael. Prove you're wrong. I do actually have a couple of her books, to be honest. Just as long as you're fair to the next Riddick movie, I would be down for another Riddick movie. I'll be honest, I like those movies so far. The first two may be better than the third, but yeah. Thank you, Connie. Boomer says, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Movie stars are what used to sell movies, yeah. And sadly, we don't have them anymore. Gorilla says the problem with modern movies is how much is it that the movie is bad versus some celebrity with the movie running their mouth, like when Rachel Zegler wouldn't shut up or Anson Mount telling half the country to uh, go F themselves. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's another thing, and, I'll be honest, that's going to play into my reviews from here on in. If a movie is going to wear its politics on its sleeve, then they can't get angry if we bring it up, or if it affects a score one way or another. Oh, it's fine. I understand. Keep those standards. You know, those standards are necessary. I have my own. I have my own standards. You have yours. I'm flag with name. It's good to see you. It's just a quote unquote, stars' behavior is the reason why studios are looking to replace them with AI actors. Guys, and this is another thing, and I've brought this up before. Guys, AI is going to happen, like it or not. And there are going to be AI movies with AI actors. And, I'm not saying that that's a good thing or not, but it's going to happen, and I am curious to see where that will go in the future. Um, but yeah, Hollywood, you got to make your choice now. You better be on your toes, because not only are we coming, but so's AI. And a lot of people have already lost their jobs, and sadly, they were probably the wrong people. Maybe start with some of these studio heads. And thank you for the super sticker, Nate. Appreciate it. For example, most of today's movies have terrible flow. They either drag or are too fast. I want my movies to flow like water. Yeah, but I get it. I totally understand. Yeah, F1 was good. Yeah, yeah, it was. It was formulaic, but it was good. Yeah, I agree. That was one of the better movies this year. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up in my honorable mention somewhere. All right. Well, I think that's going to be the show for tonight, folks. We have Geeky Geezers coming up at the top of the hour. Stay to the end of the broadcast. You will be automatically redirected over to Boomer's channel for Geeky Geezers. And right after that program is over, at 11:15, reserved seats will begin. Big Al Presents will be my guest for tonight's broadcast. You're welcome, D. He says the studios really need to stop hiring activist directors, writers, and actors, which destroying the entertainment industry and burning franchises. Yeah, well, the problem is, Nate, is that the studios agree. They're just as much the problem. There's a reason they're hiring these people. It's because they agree with them. I should be able to catch both shows tonight. Well, okay, it'll be good to see you there. Folks, here's what I want you to do. If you choose to accept the mission, Mr. Phelps. Go out, review movies, television, music. If you want to go be a booktuber, be a booktuber. That's good too. You have a voice, and I am willing to hear you out. We might not get any fancy awards, but we'll be doing our own thing, and we'll be honest. And I think next year is going to be very good for us. I'm going to Let's Rumble. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Thank you, you super sticker. Thank you, Boomer, Connie, Rock, B. Penzak, Gorilla's Random Thoughts, Big Out Presents, Sashi, our man from the future.
Take care, stay strong, we're breaking the mold. Be safe, stay healthy, let the story unfold.
HC 2005, here comes in this tune. Sergeant Giratina.
This is how we win. Stay care, stay strong, we're breaking the
From HQ in all points, north, south, east, west, and beyond. Good night. Take care, stay strong, be safe and healthy.
This is how we win.
This is how we win.
Under YouTube, bro, let's roll.